Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Ricos' Rants. I'm your host, Rico DiGiorgio. Okay, so first off, I just want to say I am sorry that I have been not doing any rants for quite a while. I was really sick with the flu that's been going around. I was like, I was fine. I was sick, and then I felt better, and then I got it again, and it was way worse. My immune system was just depleted, and like I had fever, and I was throwing up, and I was just not good. And then on top of that, I had a really bad headache, so I've just been a fucking mess. Stephanie came out and visited me a couple times. During that process, we meant to do rants, and then things just we just didn't have time, and also I just wasn't feeling up to it. And you guys know me that if I'm not feeling great enough, I don't really want to do it, even though my priority is, apart from my health, is for you guys. So in the middle of all that, I moved. Not really moved to anywhere specific that's amazing, but I moved into my old room in the garage. So now, let me show you guys this. So that is an awesome collage, frame photo collage thing that Steph made me. Here's my DVD and some VHS collection. It's kind of messy. There's some games over there. You can kind of see a decent amount. I haven't even had them counted. Some pops, some little posters. Eventually, I will hang out. My room is obviously incomplete, but I at least have my bed and my TV. And if you can see what's on the TV, that's me today's rant. So, without further ado, let's do Hook. Bangarang. So, I have been seeing a ton of movies since I was sick, since my last rant. But I will eventually do a review of one I saw last night called Downsizing. Really bizarre, interesting movie. Um, but I also saw some other random fucking movies that I will have to do, like Suburbicon. I've been in a weird Matt Damon movie. I saw Kramer versus Kramer for the first time last night. That was interesting. But you know what? When you're sick, the only thing that you really kind of want to do is to watch something that you know will cheer you up and make you feel good. And I just gotta fucking say, you guys can laugh, you guys can make fun of me, you guys can give me shit. But pound for pound, one of the fucking movies that was my childhood was Hook. I remember seeing that movie so many times that in a weird way it was my own version of Peter Pan. Like, I love the Peter Pan story and the play and the Disney movie, and then they remade it live action. I was a big fan of Peter Pan. I think in part because I always just, it's not that I didn't ever want to grow up, because I very much wanted to be an adult and grow up and everything, but like the story itself it was such an amazing fairy tale that I always clung to it. But I loved Hook because, one, Robin Williams is just fucking phenomenal. And I was genuinely terrified of Dustin Hoffman as James Hook. It was just. And now, years later, like, I remember making that. Like, I knew Dustin Hoffman played Captain Hook, but he looked so much not like Dustin Hoffman that it never really in my brain. And I mean, because to me, Dustin Hoffman is this great, amazing actor who was in Rain Man, he was in The Graduate. But you look at him in the mustache and the wig and the hat and the whole and legit sword fighting, and you don't really think it's definitely Rain Man, definitely. You just don't think it. It's such a bizarre role, and yet he's perfect for it. Like, I mean, Jason Isaacs was great in that 2003 live action Peter Pan. Whoever fucking voiced. I mean, there have been great hooks, and there's been terrible hooks, but for me, I mean, it's so bizarre that Dustin Hoffman to me is the best Captain Hook. And look, this movie was not exactly applauded when it came out. This is sort of regarded as one of the lowest Spielberg films. I mean, but it was my fucking childhood. Like, and it's such a great concept where it just flips the tale, which is, what if Peter Pan grew up? This is the boy who defied time. He never grew up. He hated responsibility. He just always wanted to be a little boy and have fun. And then he grew up and became a fucking boring, antisocial lawyer who's afraid of heights. It's such a great spin on it, and and he's a father. He's got 2 kids. Now listen, as much as I love this movie is not without its faults. I mean, I acknowledge it. There is some bad things. There are some slight plot holes that, you have to kind of just throw away because one, it's a fantasy film. 2, it's a fucking Peter Pan movie. 3, it's Spielberg. He kind of takes fantasy just, even something like Schindler's List, which is which is a perfect film. There is a slight. I mean, it's realism, but I don't know. For Hook, it's a perfect Spielberg film to me because it is all about capturing your childhood. And I was watching this last night, and I just finished it 20 minutes ago. And I just remember being 5 years old and staring at this film with wonder and amazement, and it was probably my favorite film when I was a kid. So much so that I'm looking at this artwork on the cover DVD, and I'm like, I want a fucking poster of that. I've got so many posters that I haven't hung up. Now I'm thinking I want a Hook poster, and I'll probably be the only one who has it because who the fuck loves this movie? Let me know in the comments. Did you like Hook as much as I did? I mean, you would have had to have loved it when you were young. So if you were like an adult and you went and saw this, you're like, this is really kiddie and blah, 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 blah. This is, in a weird way, this was sort of my Star Wars. Because the true Star Wars fans, when they saw it, it was in theaters and they were small children. They were kids or they were teenagers. I saw this before I had even been aware of Star Wars. This was my fantasy, and I wanted to be a lost boy, and I wanted to be a pirate, and I wanted to be Peter Pan. Desperately wanted to be Peter Pan. I keep fucking with the camera because I'm just a perfectionist. I'm just not happy, and I know I'm on a bed, so it's rocking like that. Oh, guys. So anyways, it's been 10 years since Peter Pan has been to London. He's got 2 kids, Maggie and Jack. And he and his wife and his family visit the original Wendy, played by Maggie Smith. And here's another thing is, when you're 5 years old watching this for the first time, or even younger, I must have seen this so many times when I was younger than 5. I genuinely thought when Maggie Smith just looked that old. I had no idea it was makeup. So when I was like watching Harry Potter in 2001 in theaters, I was like, God damn, Maggie Smith got some great makeup. And I didn't piece it together that she was young playing old. I genuinely thought she looked that old. I mean, anyways, so they're visiting and they're doing a a award for Wendy. And Wendy is the original, she is the true life source of the Wendy character in Peter and Wendy, or Peter Pan. And the story is that J.M. Barrie was her neighbor and wrote the stories down. And then you find out that the stories are true. Peter Banning, is really Peter Pan. He just forgot. He has no memory of Neverland and Captain Hook and How to Fly and the Lost Boys. He just thinks it's a book like everyone else does. The only people who really know is Wendy and Toodles. Toodles is one of the original Lost Boys, and he's an old fucking man in this. And he kind of comes off very senile. He's like, lost, lost, lost. And like he's like, what did you lose? I lost my marbles. Like, what the fuck is this? There's a lot of ridiculous acting. Everyone's overacting because it's a kids' film, and everyone overacts in a kids' film. But overacts in a lovely, open way. It's not like, oh, you like it wouldn't belong in a exquisite acting segment of Hollywood Babylon. Well, maybe the whole movie is kind of exquisite acting, but it's like exquisite acting that you just wholeheartedly love. So while Peter and his wife and Wendy are at the award ceremony to basically dedicate a building for her, because for years she's been saving and raising orphans. The kids are at the Darling house, and they get kidnapped by Captain Hook and his pirates. That's my. I mean, look, I can complain about certain parts of the film, but really that's the biggest one that I have big problems with, is that, yes, they're holding back on showing off the pirates for that big reveal when the pirates, like, when you finally see the pirates and Captain Hook. But, like, the kids are taken through basically a green mist. And their covers fly off of the bed with nobody pulling them off, and they're screaming. And so you don't really see what happens. And again, it's kind of been years since I've seen or read the Peter Pan book. But it makes me wonder, did Captain Hook and his crew, or was it just Captain Hook and Smee, or were they in a fucking rowboat that sailed from Neverland in the sky? And how the fuck did they get there? Weird little trivia thing is that there's a part in the beginning when they're on a plane and Peter's afraid of heights, and you hear, "This is your captain speaking," and that is voiced by Dustin Hoffman in a British accent as the airline pilot. And you're kind of like, is Captain Hook the pilot of the plane? Is that how... that's my one problem, is that I just don't know how Hook got the kids. And it's always kind of troubled me. And I mean, I don't know. If they could fly, how could they fly? Did they steal a fucking, ferry and douse themselves in fairy dust and learn to fly? I mean, the whole point is that the pirates don't have happy thoughts because they're adults or something. I don't know. That's my main question. That's my main kind of peeve with this film, which is just, how the fuck do they get the kids, and how the fuck do they know to plan it? Like, where did they get this information all about Peter Banning and his kids, how Peter missed his son's baseball game, how he went to Maggie's play in the beginning? These are some of the most, informed pirates in another fucking part of the universe. Literally, you have to fly to a second star to the right and straight on until morning, wherever the fuck that means, to get from London to... how do they know this shit? That's my only problem, is just that these pirates just knew way too fucking much, and they didn't explain how they got the kids. They just... green mist or something? I don't get it. So, Peter is now, told that that he's Peter Pan by Wendy, and he doesn't believe it. He thinks she's crazy. And then as he's sort of drunk one night, that night, Tink comes and gets his ass. And Tinkerbell is played by Julia Roberts, and I've heard Julia Roberts was really just terrible on set, and they dubbed her Tinker Hell or Stinker Hell or one of the two. and like she was going through, like she had just left Kiefer Sutherland like at the altar, and like ran away and hid in Ireland, and Spielberg like they almost shut down production because they couldn't find her, and Spielberg like tracked her down and like was furious and like said, if you don't get the fuck back here, I'm firing you. So I guess ever since then, the tensions between the two of them were not great, and she was like complaining that she was behind like on wires and green screen. She wasn't really around most of the actors except for a couple key scenes. So, but I didn't care. I mean, Julia Roberts was a fine Tinkerbell, but it was kind of weird concept for me that Tinkerbell was able to talk. She also came off um, overly. She came off overly talkative. That was one of the things. She was just always talking through the whole film, which I mean, I as a kid you don't care about, but when you're an adult, you're like, Jesus, Julia, take it easy. Um, it's pouring rain. I'm trying to limit my smoking in here, in my new room, but it's pouring rain outside, so I'm not going to go outside. But I want a cigarette. So she takes him to Neverland. But she takes him to the pirate ship, which I always kind of thought was like, why would you take him there? Like he has to get his kids obviously from the Jolly Roger, but at the same time, it's like he doesn't know who the fuck he is. Like, give him a break. He's hungover. He's 40 years old. He barely knows who he is as a human, let alone who he was as a fucking imp. And now you're gonna like thrust him in literally a sea of pirates and just hope for the best. He tries to save his kids, and there's this whole thing between him and Captain Hook and Smee. Oh, that's one of the highlights. Is Bob Hoskins is just perfect as Smee, just like gruff but kind of friendly, and like he just seems like a sweetheart. And I read that Bob Hoskins and Dustin Hoffman, when they were rehearsing together, there's a lot of dialogue between the two of them. They both came to the realization, apparently at the same time, which was these guys are gay. That and then they started playing Captain Hook and Bob Hoskins as just like two old homosexuals that just love each other and are devoted to each other, and they kind of like bicker at each other like a weird couple. Like Peter Pan will always be um, Captain Hook's mortal enemy, or in some cases, immortal enemy. But Smee will always be his first mate and his first love. So, and you when you know that going into it, it actually like is so obvious, and it's this amazing chemistry between the two of them that I haven't seen. I mean, rivaled by most others. I mean, if I remember, the 2003 Peter Pan was like that. Smee was just basically non-existent. Like hardly any scenes of him and Captain Hook. Um, perfect chemistry between the two of them. So Pan Peter um, finds the Lost Boys, and because he's old and because he doesn't remember, they are at first like saying, "You're not Peter Pan. You're old and fat," and they have a new leader named Rufio. And I remember that was like the thing, like Rufy. Oh, that was the chant when you were a kid. When I was a kid. And these Lost Boys have like some weird, like these Lost Boys. It's like a whole army of kids, and that's another problem. Sort of is that it's kids. So these kids are just told to be kids and have fun. But I read that Spielberg was not having a good time acting with kids, and he jokingly said like it made him question whether he wanted to have more in the future. Wow. So there's a good chunk of the film is just trying to get Peter to remember who the fuck he is, and the Lost Boys training him, getting him in shape, and he only has 3 days to do this shit. At the same time, Smee devises a plan and convinces Captain Hook to make the kids love him, so that above all, even if Peter becomes Peter Pan again, he still has to like the kids won't go home with him. That's the whole point. That's the biggest betrayal. So it doesn't work on Maggie, the little girl, but because she still has an innocent love relationship with her father, even though he's distant. But whereas Jack is 12 years old, or something, 10, 10, 11, 12 years old, and he and his father have been fighting, and he keeps letting Jack down. He keeps missing all his games. He is always disapproving. He's always saying, close that window, don't jump on the bed, blah, blah, blah. And so it's very easy. All of a sudden, Jack just starts forgetting who his father is. He starts forgetting his old life, and he's slowly becoming, in a weird way, the adopted son of James Hook. And it's really kind of interesting how it happens. There's something about Neverland that just makes you forget things. Like, because Neverland is a fantastical place where time does not exist, unless you're a pirate. Well, even then, you don't age. You're just an old man forever. Um, like their memories just slowly go away. So when Peter left Neverland and came to England, he forgot Neverland, and his only memories of is being rescued by Wendy when he's 13. So the reversal's happening to Jack, where he just slowly forgets who his dad is, and he now genuinely believes that he is. He knows he has a sister, but he doesn't remember his mom or his dad. And so, watching this film for the first time in like 10 years, it just. I choked up a couple times, and I choked up for all the weird, like, like parts that didn't really require choking up. Like I just remember being 5 years old, 20 years ago, 5, 6 years old, just, like watching this repeatedly and like wanting to learn how to sword fight, and this was my adventure. And above all, I wanted to go to Neverland. Uh, it got to the point that I even had like action figures of Captain Hook and Peter Pan with Robin Williams and of Dustin Hoffman, and I was playing with them all the time, man. I mean, just is it a go out and see it? I don't know, because there are some faults to it, and you may not like it as much as I liked it. Is it a perfect film? No. Is it one of my favorite films and probably one of my all-time favorite Spielberg films? Definitely. With the praise of Dustin Hoffman, Robin Williams is always a fucking treasure, and I think that's part of why I cried a little bit. Is because Robin Williams just he made it is absolutely believable that he would have been a grown-up Peter Pan, because in a weird way he even as an adult he never grew up. He was always a kid at heart. So it was perfect for him. I cannot fathom anybody else playing either of these roles. The whole cast is tremendous. And there's some weird cameos too that you don't see and you don't recognize. Like there's a part where Tink is taking Peter to Neverland, and she drops some fairy dust on random locals. There's a couple that's kissing, and you don't see them up close. You just see their silhouettes kissing, and they slowly rise because they're embracing each other and they're having happy thoughts. I found out that's George Lucas and Carrie Fisher. And Carrie Fisher actually did like a script polish. So Princess Leia gave me my fucking childhood film. Like that's a tremendous thing that I love. Also, Glenn Close is in this fucking movie. Here's one of the most fucked up parts of the movie that to me still haunts me. I remember being a little kid, being just terrified of this. Hook randomly accuses a pirate of not believing in him. He's like, "Who didn't think I could do it? Who doubted me? Someone here does not belong. I will weed you out." And he's like, "No, not you, not you." And then he goes down, and there's a bearded pirate, and he says, "Tell your captain the truth." And then like the pirate doesn't know it. He's like, "Okay, I did it. I didn't believe in you." Even though he's like, I don't know what you're talking about, but okay. when you're like got the hook in your face, you kind of just bend down. He's like, "Oh yes, the boo box," and he says the boo box, and this look of terror on this pirate's face. And he's screaming, and they drag him, put him in a big chest, open up a fucking little peephole, and drop these two black scorpions in it, and you hear the screaming, and the other pirates are relishing. They're like, "Boo, boo! You should have listened to the captain." Like, holy fuck, dude, that is absolutely terrifying. Just being locked in a box and having two scorpions dropped on you. That is terrifying to me. So that was Glenn Close. That was Glenn Close. That is a fucking Fatal Attraction if I ever saw him. And then I want to say, Glenn Close like shows up later. I don't know if it's her, but it totally looks like her in like a really shitty like prostitute makeup, and she's like next to. I don't know if it's Glenn Close, but like it looks a lot like, it looks more like Glenn Close there than it does with her in a wig and beard as a pirate. Fucking Phil Collins is in this movie. Jimmy Buffett is in this movie. Like, random rock stars. Like, this was the first pirate movie where rock stars were actually like as pirates before Pirates of the Caribbean. So in a weird way, like, Johnny Depp was actually right that like pirates were basically the original rock stars. So his impression of Keith Richards is actually fucking sound. I even read David Bowie was like really heavily considered to be Hook originally. So yeah, the cast is great. The music, fucking John Williams. Ba 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 da da da. Oh my god, just my fucking childhood, man. I love this movie, and go and see it. Definitely go and see it. And I don't care if you hate it. I just want you guys to love it. And if you hate this movie, what happened to your childhood? I hope you guys like the rant. Again, I'm sorry for it being so late. But I hope you enjoyed this one. Alright, guys.